Going to talk about the fifth grade. I haven't really touched on what it was like then, and in all honesty, I hated school. Hated elementary school, really hated middle school. Wouldn't wish that place on anybody. Didn't like high school. Didn't really enjoy college either. I just hated school. But it was part of it. But fifth grade, out of all the grades, was probably my favorite grade. Because fifth grade was actually fun, and you'll never really be as like the oldest kid in the school like you would back then. In fifth grade, we were holy terrors. I mean, I've talked about middle school, but fifth grade, talked about John and a couple other guys. They would dip in the back of a classroom and spit in the floor. I never did that. Didn't even really know what dipping was or how to do it. They would do that, and we were forever drawing stuff, playing with Pokemon cards, trading Pokemon cards, especially that whole year. That's all we did. The teachers hated it. They were always angry about it, taking up Pokemon cards and stuff like that, and always messing with each other. We would draw pictures of each other. I remember I drew a picture of John, and somebody else found it, and he got so mad. And we're trying to think of what else there. I remember a girl had a camera. This is more of a you had to be there moments. And a guy in our class, Jacob, he's a good friend of mine, he walked up to and said, "Oh, hey, whose camera?" And he opened the back of it. And he's like, "Whoops, exposed the film," because that was back when you had film. And then she found her camera. She's like, "Who opened the camera and exposed the film?" He said, "It was Jim. It was." I was like, "No, it wasn't. I saw you do it." And poppers. Oh, how we popped poppers. I don't know if you know what that is. You fold a piece of paper until almost the end, fold it lengthways, and then lift up the flap. And there should be two little holes, kind of like I guess it looks like a jet engine. I'd really have to show you to get the full effect. And when you put it between your fingers and slung it down, it popped. If you made it right, you could make a loud noise. Usually it was just a pop, hence the name. But depending on the paper, you can make like a loud noise, almost like a gunshot going off. And we were forever doing that. And I remember my mom would look at my report card. She's like, "Okay, you got straight A's, but you somehow made a C in conduct. What the hell are you doing?" Because I used to be like 199 in conduct, and I got to fifth grade where we would pop poppers, just generally be difficult, and our grades suffered because one time a bunch of people didn't like the librarian. I was fine with her because my mom was a librarian. She knew my mom, and I liked going to the library. I liked reading, despite my hatred of AR points. And they told the teacher, "We don't want to go," and he was like, "Okay." And then he changed his tune, and all of them got like 10 points off their conduct grade for being late to the library. And you get into a little more about the teachers. Like the teacher I had mainly, I had her in third grade too. She was a nice enough lady, just a little bit, what's the word, irate at times, which her life was kind of frustrated because she was divorced, because she had one name when I had her in the third grade. When she switched to fifth grade, she went back to her maiden name, and then she got married while I was in the fifth grade. And it was actually kind of shitty because I learned later on when she got married when I was in the fifth grade, the guy married her for her credit. Then built a house and put a bunch of debt on her credit and then divorced her. Kind of shitty. Actually, very shitty. But she has subsequently, she's got like 2 kids. She's retired and she's teaching at a private school. So good for her. And what was cool about her is if the bell wouldn't ring on time, she'd just tell us to leave. She's like, "All right, it's 2:45, bye." And then she'd play music first thing in the morning. So that was pretty fun. Although she wasn't tolerant of our shenanigans either. She took up my Pokemon cards several times, and I'll talk more about that here in a little bit. And then the other teacher, the math and science teacher, she was good. She was legitimately good. She was my neighbor. She liked math and science. You could tell she was passionate about it. We did all kinds of cool stuff. Like the way she did it, even though I hated school and have never had a taste for science or math because I just don't. She made it fun. And the English teacher and spelling teacher was the first male teacher any of us had ever had. I mean, there's male teachers now. It's not a male-dominated profession. And he was a nice man. We liked him. It's just he never could decide. It was like he had somebody on each shoulder telling him what to do because he couldn't decide whether to reward us or punish us. Because he would start a movie and then 10 minutes in change his mind, and then 20 minutes later he'd start it back. It's like he never really knew. And he was forever telling stories. His hands would start shaking. I feel one coming on. And he'd tell stories. He liked stories to tell in the dark, that little thing. He read from that a lot. He had other stories to tell. He tried to keep it interesting. I won't say he's a bad teacher. He's a nice man. I still like him because when he came to that school, everybody's like, oh, a male teacher. We don't even know. We've never even had one. But he was the one that whenever we had something to do, like music or the library, the counselor, he's the one that would have to corral us there. And one time we did something in art, and it involved large canvases. Well, she let us take them home, and we, of course, used them to make enormous poppers. They were louder than God. They would echo across the building. We all got in trouble. There was about 8 of us. Because the poppers were so loud, they thought somebody was shooting. And then they saw it was a bunch of 5th grade guys. They were not amused. And another time, this is just talking about me and John. I don't remember what happened. He ran into me basically on purpose, so I pushed him. He pushed me back, and I pushed him back. He said, "We're gonna fight after school. I'm gonna whoop your ass." And I just grunted. I was like, okay, because I wasn't really a fighter. It's not my thing. I don't want to fight. I'm pretty laid back. And then all he talked about at lunch, because we ate lunch together, he's like, "Let me tell you about all the fights I got in at Europe Brown. I once fought 12 dudes at once." And I didn't really want to fight, like I said. And in the 5th grade, I was about 5'7", maybe 5'8", and over 200 pounds, because I weighed by about 200 pounds then and haven't looked back since. And we go after school, and I show up because I have nothing better to do because I'm waiting on my sister to get out of school. And he tries to push me and misses. He tries to hit me, and I keep avoiding it. And then he really tries to throw a haymaker. He falls, lands flat on his face on the concrete, and busts his nose open. And that was the end of the fight. And another time, there was a guy named Trent. And Trent was a laid-back guy. He kept to himself. He was, back then, or now he's very different. Now he's been in the Army. He does like Krav Maga. He lifts weights. He's a pretty fit dude. Back then, he was kind of just a little skinny, nerdy guy with glasses. And John said something to him, and Trent's like, "Well, I can beat you up." And John, of course, couldn't back down from a challenge. So he's like, "Oh, well, I'm coming for you then, man. We're going to fight after school." And it became the worst kept secret in the school. Everybody knew about it. Everybody talked about it so casually. And I didn't understand that because usually fights involve quiet. But the word got to Trent's teacher, the science teacher. And they planned something out. And after school, John came out, grabbed Trent and threw him down. The science teacher came running up, grabbed John, and took him to the back. Anyway, talking about the Pokemon cards were forever getting stolen. So you had to be careful who you showed them to because I had a lot of stuff stolen. And I remember one time I bought a Japanese pack of Pokemon cards, and this was expensive. It was like $10. But I was proud of what I got, so I wanted to show them off at school because I was an idiot. And I waited till the end of the day. The end of the day, and I was showing them to people, and one guy's like, "You better." His name was Cody. "You better give me one of those cards, or I'm gonna tell the teachers." I'm like, "No, dude, don't do that. Be cool." And he did it. And the teacher took him up 5 minutes before school could get out. And I was so angry. It's the only time I ever did this. I don't do this. I'm not the type. I found Cody after school and I beat the shit out of him. Like, I threw him to the ground. I kicked him. I hit him several times. It's what passed for a fight. And the worst part of it all, when she went to give him back, someone had stolen the rarest card. So that pissed me off. And the teachers were not sympathetic. "Oh, you want us to do something about the theft of stuff you weren't even supposed to bring to school?" It's like calling the police, "Somebody stole my drugs." "Oh, okay. Somebody stole your illegal drugs and you want to press charges? We'll get right on that." But there are other things too that made it fun. Like we had our own separate building, and just generally speaking, that was a good grade. I don't really talk to anybody that much from back then, but it's just we had a lot of fun, and we were obsessed with also Donkey Kong 64 to come out back then, and every day at school we were discussing it, how to play it, how far we were, who could get the furthest, because the internet wasn't a major thing. I had the internet, but we played. We were kids for the most part, so we had a lot of fun. But I still hate school, but fifth grade wasn't that bad.